To welcome everybody, and I'm Tara Lyons of Team TaraLyons with Royal LePage in Belleville and CFB Trenton, Prince Edward County, the whole Quinte area. And I have an awesome guest on today, and her name is Julie Parry.
I'm from Remax first here in Calgary. So I do Calgary and the surrounding towns, so Cochrane, Okotoks, Airdrie, and all of the foothills area.
And of course, that is near and dear to Tom, my husband, part of the team, his heart, because he grew up out in Calgary. So he loves your area.
Yeah. And did you know what? It's an awesome place to live. We love it here. It's easy to promote something you love. It's a great place to be. We've got blue skies and sunshine again today. So I know loads of people from out in your area are always panicking. Oh, it's so cold out in Calgary. But you know what? The blue skies and sunshine every day makes it all worthwhile.
And it makes that snow disappear very quickly with all those Chinooks that Tom tells me about all the time.
It does. The Chinooks are fantastic. Thank goodness we get them in on a very regular basis.
Let's get into real estate, because that's what everybody is curious about. And of course, the number one question that people have when they're moving to your area or even just looking at selling in your area is, what's your average house sale price there?
So our average house sale price in the Calgary area for 2022 was $516,865. So that's a 4.9% increase on 2021 stats.
Wow, so that's excellent. I'll get to mine in just a minute, but did you see a big increase in that whole February, March time period, and then a decrease as well to give you that overall?
Absolutely. So the first half of the year we saw lots of gains. In fact, our highest sale price was in the March, which was 535 was our average sale price. And then it dropped. It dropped a little bit and then dropped some more. And then actually, curiously, went up a tiny bit in the last quarter of the year.
Oh, so, that's interesting.
Because we had such huge gains in the first 6 months,
it
didn't make any difference. So the average sale price still ended up higher than 2021. And of course, lots of people only remember the last 6 months and go, oh, our market wasn't as good. Our market was really good. In fact, I looked back on our stats back to 2008, and I can't find a higher sales price for average sale price for the year. So we outperformed everything that we have done before, which was awesome.
It really only matters if anybody was buying in the peak and having to sell now, right? So that's when it really, and we've had some people where that has affected them. I'm going to talk month over month because, as most people watching this know, that I have this conversation every month. I'm going to talk November to December, which is, of course, the ending of our last quarter last year. I'm going to do Belleville only. If you want any of the other surrounding areas for the whole Quinte area, then you can, of course, contact me with all my information's attached. But let's talk just Belleville itself. So if we go from November to December, we actually saw a 10% decrease in our house pricing. So in November, we were on average about 514,000, and in December went to 462,000. So in town, we saw that bit of a difference. Again, overall for the whole area, if we were to look at that, we saw still around a 20% increase last year, which was pretty incredible. So it's going to be interesting, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we expect to see happen this year. So your listings, are they up or down right?
So our inventory is really low. We're trying to find a product that someone's looking for is tough. Our inventory is still down 21.5% compared to 2021. So that's huge. At the end of the year, so in December, our months of inventory was at 1.9. And in fact, it stayed in the ones for probably the first few months of the year. And then it climbed up a little bit, but it was still completely a seller's market. So we were still well below 3 months of inventory. It climbed a little bit, and that's when we saw prices go down.
What are your average days on market right now?
Average days on market is around that 45. Market, it depends on the price range, depends on obviously your days on the market. It really does. But average was not unusual in 2018, 2019 to have 80, 90, 100 days on the market. That was not unheard of. So this year and obviously 2021, we had some very short days on the market, which was not something that we have had as much as obviously the Ontario market.
We went as low as about 6 days on market, and that was only because we did that to help sellers have their home on a good enough time to get buyers through. Otherwise, homes were selling in a day. It's now, depending on your area, depending on price range, but if we take the overall average, we're around 50 to 60 days on market, just depending. One of the things I think has come out of going from that seller's market, for us, we're going into a buyer's market, and it's allowing the buyers to have their options back instead of having to do all their work ahead of time. And yes, you should still get pre-approved, but they actually had to have financing in place for that property. It was a lot of obstacles we had to go through. And thank you for all the mortgage brokers who helped us do that. But they're now able to get their home inspections and doing that as a condition after they have an accepted offer, instead of paying for a home inspection that they may not even get the house. Our projection for this year is for the next 6 months, it's your time to buy. If you're looking to buy, get in there, do it. Don't keep waiting for the bottom of the market, because we are in it for the next few months. And then by the end of the year, they're expecting that to balance out and maybe see some increases next year, but at least be in a balanced market.
And we were quite fortunate in the Calgary market, because although we had those few months which were crazy and there wasn't many conditions, it wasn't very long before people were writing in conditions. They were having the option of having home inspections again. It was, which just makes it a lot easier for the buyers, because it's very stressful to go, okay, you've got to write, but people are writing stuff with no conditions. When I look back on the whole year, there was very few clients that I dealt with that we had no option and they wanted to write with no conditions. Most of the time we could get away with having still, had to be very short, but we could still get away on the most part for having conditions, which made life so much easier, because people should have a home inspection. People need to know what they're getting into. Yeah. But yes, people needed to make sure they had their financing sorted and in place and a proper pre-approval, because the last thing you wanted was anything falling through on financing.
Yeah. And where do you see your predictions for this year?
So I think that we will certainly see our inventory start to increase slightly in the Calgary area. We still have a huge demand. We have had such an influx of people coming into this region from other parts of the country in 2022 that I can see that continuing to happen in 2023. And I was on a phone call just before we started this meeting, again, someone who's moving from Vancouver, because ultimately in this region, average house price is still a lot lower than a lot of the major urban centers across Canada. When you look at the average sale price across Canada, and then you start looking at the urban centers like Vancouver and Toronto, but Calgary at that low fives is still very affordable. So there's lots of people who are moving from elsewhere and they're coming here completely mortgage free. And there's lots of opportunities in Calgary. The amount of migration into Alberta and Calgary in particular has been huge. And because we still have quite a lot of people coming, I think we're still going to have that demand. So our inventory, though it's going to increase slightly, I think the demand's still going to be there. So I can predict, I think, and obviously I'm not an economic expert, but I think our prices are still going to hold well, and if not, have a couple of percentage points improvement.
Yeah, it's a great prediction. And it's funny, I didn't realize how close our average house prices were. I just find it interesting. And just having Phil speak, he's our CEO and president of Royal LePage, and the immigration that's occurring is just going to affect us all again. And it's all in a positive way. So many people are thinking it's people are coming here without money, but they're not. Immigrants are people that come in that have to qualify, and they have to qualify financially as well. Whereas our refugees that we bring in, they're the ones that we are helping and getting established. So,
well, and obviously you can hear from my accent, I'm an immigrant. So we had to qualify to get here. We emigrated back in 2006. We had to qualify to get here and prove a certain financial status. And we bought a house as soon as we arrived, because, we had a mortgage. We still afford to buy. We still had the down payments and everything to be able to obviously purchase when you first arrived.
It's not as doom and gloom as what everybody's thinking. Our unemployment is at an all-time low. People are working, people are making money. Our inflation still needs to get under control, which, yes, we understand that, and we're working towards doing that, which is the interest rate hikes. Yes, we have another interest rate hike coming the end of this month, and our interest rates are incredible compared to, if you take this back to the 80s and 90s, when we went through that recession again and we had high interest rates, they were in the double digits and high, like up 21, 22%. So we're not seeing things like that here because of the offset with people still working with that low unemployment and skilled labor.
Yeah, people have to remember as well, our interest rates were artificially low during COVID.
Yes.
They were super, super low. And it's not something that we've really seen before. Typically, obviously, our norm is around mortgage rates at 3-4%. That's typically our norm. And the fact that obviously it went down to 1 point something, it was great. But when you look historically, yes, 17, 18, 19% was not unheard of. When you look at everything, it's still relatively low to be able to purchase. It just means that some people's buying power has been reduced slightly.
Yes, and that's a really good point. And don't forget, anybody who's watching this, just you can contact Julie or myself, and we'll be able to help you with that process to see where you fit, and with a mortgage broker or a financial person to help you. Thank you very much, Julie. I really appreciate you coming on with us, and I just love chatting with you.
I appreciate you asking me. It's been great.
Yeah.
We love working with you guys. It's always fantastic to see you and Tom and catch up and see what's happening in your part of Canada.
Yes.
And
Well,
I think
and we're going to be in your part. Don't forget,
you are.
2024.
I
We
know.
have our
I know.
Royal LePage conference there.
You can always come anytime soon. Like, you're more than welcome whenever. But it'd be great to see you in 2024. But I'll see you before then anyway at one of our conferences this year. But
absolutely,
it's always good to talk to people across the country and see what's happening in the different markets.
yes,
Because it is so different. And I think all of us need to remember mainstream media, they talk about Vancouver and Toronto, Vancouver and Toronto, Vancouver and Toronto.
yes,
And the rest of Canada doesn't get mentioned. And so when you're seeing, house prices are dropping and they're falling by this percentage, and everyone starts to panic. And I'm sure you've probably had lots of phone calls, because I know I have. Oh my goodness, has this happened? And we're like, well, we're not seeing that here. This is what's happening here. Reach out to Tara or myself and see what's actually happening in the market that you're in, rather than listening to mainstream media, because mainstream media is not talking about your area. Unless you're in Toronto or Vancouver, they're not talking about you whatsoever.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hey, no worries. Thank you so much for inviting me.